My name is Anna, and 2 years ago, my husband Max and I decided to leave the busy city behind and move to a small, peaceful village. We had always dreamed of living closer to nature, surrounded by fresh air and beautiful scenery. This village seemed perfect for us. There's a gentle river nearby, a lush forest filled with the sound of birds, and an overwhelming sense of calm. We instantly fell in love with the place. We both believed it was the ideal environment for the life we wanted to build together. Our plan was to settle down, start a family, and embrace a simpler way of living. We envisioned our future children growing up here, playing in the open fields, and learning to appreciate the beauty of nature. Everything felt right, and we were happy with the decision we had made. Shortly after moving, we met our neighbors, John and Lisa. They were around the same age as us, and like us, they didn't have any children yet. They were friendly and welcoming, and we quickly became close. It wasn't long before we started spending a lot of time together. We would organize picnics, take long walks through the forest, and even go mushroom hunting when the season was right. Life in the village was simple but fulfilling, and the four of us enjoyed each other's company. John had a demanding job that required him to travel frequently. Sometimes he would be gone for weeks or even months at a time, leaving Lisa alone. When this happened, Lisa would often reach out to Max and me for help around the house. We didn't think much of it. After all, we were neighbors, and helping each other out was just part of the community spirit here. Max was always happy to lend a hand, whether it was fixing something in her house or helping her with the garden. At first, everything seemed normal, but over time, I began to notice subtle changes in Lisa's behavior that made me uncomfortable. She started asking Max for help more often, sometimes with tasks that didn't seem urgent or necessary. What stood out to me the most was how Lisa began dressing differently when Max was around. Instead of wearing her usual casual clothes, she started putting on more elegant outfits, dresses that were far too fancy for a quiet day at home. She also began smiling at Max in a way that felt off. It wasn't the friendly smile of a neighbor. It was something else entirely. I tried not to overthink it at first. Max is kind and helpful by nature, and I trusted him completely. But as Lisa's behavior became more obvious, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in my gut. Max, on the other hand, didn't seem to notice any of this. He continued helping Lisa whenever she asked, completely unaware of how it was affecting me. As the weeks went by, I noticed that Max started spending more and more time at Lisa's house. What should have been quick visits to help her with something small turned into hours. I would sit at home, waiting for him to return, wondering what was taking so long. When I asked him about it, he would shrug and say he was just helping her out because John wasn't around. His explanations seemed reasonable, but they didn't ease the growing doubt in my mind. Eventually, I decided to keep a closer eye on things. Whenever Max went over to Lisa's house, I found excuses to stop by as well. I told myself it was just to check on things, but deep down, I wanted to see what was really going on. Each time I visited, Lisa acted completely normal. She would greet me with a smile and make small talk, but I could see the way she looked at Max. It wasn't just friendly anymore. There was something in her eyes, a longing perhaps, that made my stomach churn. One evening, Max came home late again. When I asked him why, he told me he had been helping Lisa fix her car. His explanation sounded innocent enough, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing with thoughts and doubts. I started having vivid dreams about Lisa, dreams where she was trying to take Max away from me. I would wake up feeling angry and scared, my heart pounding. I knew I needed to talk to Max, but I didn't know how to bring it up without sounding paranoid. Then one day, I saw Max and Lisa talking outside. They were standing closer than they needed to, and Lisa was laughing in a way that made my chest tighten. My heart began to race as I watched them. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked outside and asked what was going on. Lisa turned to me with a smile that wasn't the least bit friendly. "Oh, Anna," she said casually, "we were just talking about the garden." Max stood there, silent, looking like a child caught in the act. His guilty expression only fueled my frustration and hurt. That night, I couldn't hold back any longer. I told Max everything I had been feeling, how uncomfortable Lisa's behavior made me, and how much it hurt to see him spending so much time with her. Max listened quietly, and when I was done, he apologized. He told me he hadn't realized how much it was bothering me and promised to make changes. True to his word, Max started avoiding Lisa. He stopped going to her house unless it was absolutely necessary, and I noticed that Lisa began keeping to herself more. Weeks passed, and life seemed to return to normal, but the experience left a lasting impression on me. While I still trust Max, I can't say the same for Lisa. I know her intentions weren't as innocent as she pretended. Even now, I feel a lingering unease whenever I think about her. I've learned to trust my instincts, and I'm glad I spoke up when I did. However, a part of me still feels the sting of what happened. I don't want to be the kind of wife who constantly watches her husband's every move, but after everything, it's hard not to feel a little cautious. "It's just being friendly," he said casually. "You don't have to worry." But his words did little to ease my mind. Lisa's lingering smiles, her tone, and her subtle efforts to stay close to Max felt far from innocent. I resolved to keep my distance from her and watch the situation carefully. Over the following days, life began to feel normal again. Max immersed himself in his usual routine, helping around the house, tending to the garden, and spending time with me. We grew closer, sharing long conversations and enjoying peaceful walks together. Our bond felt stronger than ever, and I started to believe the unease I'd felt about Lisa might have been unfounded. But one afternoon, while Max was at work, I ran into Lisa at the store. She greeted me with her usual charm, but her words left me unsettled. "You know, Anna," she began with a sly smile, "your husband is so helpful. I don't know what I'd do without him." Her statement made my stomach twist, but I forced a polite smile. "Yes, he's a good man," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Lisa let out a soft, knowing laugh. "He's more than just good, isn't he? You're very lucky to have him." There was something in her tone, a hint of something deeper, that made me uneasy. I nodded politely, refusing to rise to the bait. "Yes, I am," I said simply, and left it at that. In the weeks that followed, Lisa's presence seemed to fade. She no longer appeared at our door or sought Max's help. Meanwhile, Max and I focused on each other, spending more time together and deepening our connection. I began to feel a sense of peace returning to our lives. One evening, Max came home with news that filled me with relief. "John, Lisa's husband, is coming back soon," he said casually as he set his things down. The weight that had been pressing on my chest lifted instantly. I hoped John's return would bring an end to Lisa's behavior. And it did. When John came back, Lisa seemed to refocus her attention, and her interactions with Max dwindled. Life in the village returned to its quiet, pleasant rhythm. With Lisa no longer a concern, Max and I flourished. We spent our days working in the garden, planning trips, and dreaming about the future. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in warm hues, I looked at Max, a deep sense of gratitude welling up in my heart. "I'm sorry if I ever doubted you," I said softly, my voice tinged with emotion. Max turned to me, his expression a mix of surprise and affection. "Doubted me? Why would you doubt me?" I took his hand, smiling as I spoke. "Because I love you, and I know you'd never hurt me." His eyes softened, and he squeezed my hand gently. "I love you too, Anna. I would never do anything to hurt you." In that moment, I felt a deep peace settle within me. Lisa had been a small chapter in our lives, but she was no longer a lingering shadow. Max and I were building something much greater, our life together. Months later, Lisa and John moved to the city for John's new job. Their departure brought even more tranquility to the village. With them gone, Max and I continued planning our future, talking seriously about starting a family and embracing the dreams we shared. Looking back, I realized the importance of trust and open communication. No matter what challenges we might face, I knew Max and I were strong enough to handle them together. Our love, built on understanding and mutual respect, was the foundation of a life filled with hope and happiness. Thanks for watching.
Subscribe.
Echoes
Of
Reality.